when Martin Luther King was killed and all that thing was going on. That's what I was teaching. And it got to be a very social thing about whether students had to come to class or whether they didn't have them to class. That's what I said the first day of my class. Here's how much I'm making. Here's how much you're paying me to be here. If you want to come, that's fine. If you don't want to come, that's fine too. I give 2 exams, and if I were you, I'd take the first one because you won't pass the second one. It was like, you got to go to class and teach, but the students don't have to come, and you can't hold it against them. After a while, I got tired of that, and some other professors had left, and so I started teaching a lot more, and I did research. And so then I thought I lacked as a teacher because I wasn't getting the practical experience that you could at least relay in class. So anyway, I decided to leave, and I had a couple or 2 or 3 job offers when one of them was with Kodak. And for some reason, I thought they were kind of progressive in the packaging testing business. And so I went to work at Kodak, and it was packaging was in industrial engineering department. And so I stayed there in that department, I think about 2 years, but I started working with distribution division. And so then I got into being the packaging person in distribution. And I did that for, I don't know, I'd say like 5 years. And then the deal at Kodak was you couldn't stay in the job very long or you're not going to ever make it. And so then I kept moving from one job to the next, trying to find something I guess I could do. I had one job as a general supervisor of distribution for domestic shipping. So that kind of got me back into all the transportation part of it, or trucks and trains and airplanes then. And so I was there for like 3 or 4 years. And then they said, well, in order to be promoted, you need to have systems experience. So I worked in international systems for a couple of years. And then you have to have estimating and planning experience. So I did that for about 1 year and 3 days and 2 hours. I hated the job, you might guess. And so then I went back to packaging after all that time. And it was in a central organization at that point. So I stayed there for, in total, I was at Kodak 30 years. And then I left and basically retired. I did some consulting, but I worked with a lot of different companies through the research part we did at Kodak. And that's how I worked with Dennis on consortium projects where we did stuff with like IBM, HP, and we did measurements of the environment in China and stuff like that. So, that's how I kind of got back into the whole thing. But I still, I stayed at Michigan State, and then it wasn't financially working out to go to work for Lancemont. So that's how come I left. I went to Kodak. And I got to Kodak, and then MTS, which was a competitor of Lancemont, called me, wanted to know if I wanted to go to work for them. And I said, I don't know. I had just got to Kodak. I hadn't been there over a year. And so they sent a guy out and interviewed me, and we talked. And they'd already really offered the job before that guy came out. But anyway, we were talking, and I was going to work for him, and we were out to dinner, and my wife, and he said, you're going to be making more money than I do. I said, I don't think this is going to work. And myself, I didn't say it to him. So a couple of days later, I called, he was the CEO at MTS, and said, George, I'm not going to come. He said, why? And I said, because he said, I'd be making more money than he is. And I said, it's going to be a very short-term thing for me because, I'm not going to get any raises. Don't worry about it. But I worried about it, and I didn't go to Minneapolis. So, this whole packaging thing has been fun, and it obviously changed my life not going. I don't know what would have happened if I would have gone to NTS because I have all my friends that are at Lancemont, and I said, it's just not worth it. And so I stayed at Kodak and until I retired. Yeah, I had a number of different jobs, but I'd say all but like about 10 years, I guess they weren't really packaging directly, but they ended up all being packaging related. When I was working with the motion picture division, we would make rolls of film that were from 2,000 feet up to 6,000 feet long, 35 millimeter wide. We've been doing it a long time and thought we were pretty good at it. And then all of a sudden, it seemed like there were scratches on the film is what happened. And when they would shoot the pictures and then develop it, it would be like a strobe light going off in the movie thing. We got to figure out why are they getting abraded, and why isn't it consistent, and why is it different? Because it was a major problem, and they were not happy with us. And so we found out that it was basically a vibration problem, and by the tension that was on the film at the end of the wind. And but it was kind of fun. I got to go to all the big movie studios and watch them shoot movies and how they developed it and how they edited it out. And it was kind of funny. You go in a room and it's like you see in the movie, there'd be 10 guys sitting around there with smoking cigars watching films. And